Shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
It is much colder this morning than it was yesterday. Our temperatures in the teens in the north, low 20s in the south. We'll talk about when we may see a bit of a warm up.
An investigation that captured the nation. The update we expect today in the Faith Hedgepeth murder case.
Ceasefire deal reached. The call for greater humanitarian aid in Gaza.
They've lost their homes. They've lost their memories. They've lost everything.
The reason some say the first focus needs to be on rebuilding healthcare systems in Gaza. Good morning, everyone. It's 4:30. We're glad you're with us on this. Are we on Thursday?
Thursday, yeah. Don't cut it short. Yeah.
You know how I knew it was Wednesday? He's not wearing purple.
Right.
Thank you.
Friday Eve.
Thursday. Got to get credit for that. Yeah.
Friday Eve. Alongside Renee Chu, I'm Jeff Hogan. It is great to have you along here. Bundle up outside when you head out. It is cold. Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. 10 in a row now.
Yeah, how about that? Below freezing in the morning, 10 mornings in a row. North Hill's nice and clear this morning, but 21. It's a lot colder this morning than it was yesterday. But here's the difference. Yesterday we had a wind chill. Today we will not have a wind chill, or not very much of one. But 14 in Roxborough, 17 South Hill, 19 Rocky Mount, 21 Durham and Raleigh, 21 in Fayetteville. We did early in the morning yesterday, around this time, still have temperatures in the mid-30s in some places. So we're looking at our temperature change this morning around 15 degrees. 15 degrees colder than it was this time yesterday. This afternoon actually becomes a little bit milder. We'll see a high of around 50 degrees. Our wind shifts today to southerly, and that will help to bump us up just a little bit. But some interesting weather on the way. Saturday, we have the potential for some rain, just rain. Sunday, we're watching for the potential for a little frozen precipitation at the back end as everything moves on out, and just big question marks as to what we'll see next week. But we do know it will be bitterly cold.
Thanks, Elizabeth. And yes, bitterly cold outside this morning. One of the coldest we've seen this season. Meteorologist Anthony Baglione joins us live near Crabtree Valley Mall in Raleigh. And Anthony, our 10th morning in a row with these freezing and below freezing temperatures.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see, Renee, but my breath is, going with it being this chilly out here. It is very, very cold. This is our temperature right now. It's 21 degrees. But I want to show you here. We're out at a bank. This is close to Glenwood Avenue, close to Crabtree Valley Mall. And it's been cycling through. You can see -6 degrees. That is in Celsius. Don't worry. But it is very, very chilly out here. That'll cycle back through. And we have hit 21 degrees at RDU. As far as the streak we are on, that makes it the 10th morning so far that we have seen temperatures in the morning at freezing or below. So we're definitely on a streak here of pretty consistent temperatures, and we're likely to see that for at least the next couple of mornings. The last time we did that was 2018. It has been a long time since we've seen a streak that long, and back then in 2018 it was a streak of 16 days. Don't think we'll quite get there, but regardless, very chilly. I have the hat, the gloves, the hat's in the car, but I'm going to grab it here in just a second. I have the gloves on, the scarf. It is very much needed if you're headed out here this morning. Give yourself a little bit of extra time, warm the body up, warm the car up, grab that hot cup of coffee, and we will be out here monitoring these conditions all morning long. Meteorologist Anthony Baglione for WRAL News, live here in Wake County.
Also today, we could get an update on where the case stands for the man charged with murdering UNC student Faith Hedgepeth in 2012. The case captivated the country and took investigators nearly 10 years to make an arrest. Miguel Enrique Seguero Olivares is charged with first-degree burglary, first-degree rape, and first-degree sexual offense. He was arrested in 2021. He's being held without bond. Attorneys will give an update on the case during the county's homicide status hearing today. That's happening at 2:30 this afternoon.
We are working to learn more about a chase in Raleigh that led to 2 state highway patrol cruisers crashing. This crash happened around 7:30 last night on South Saunders Street near I-40. A marked cruiser and an unmarked state highway patrol car were involved. Gardner police tell us the car that was leading the chase was able to get away. We are making calls to learn what started this chase and whether anyone was hurt in the crash.
New this morning, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office says his cabinet will not meet to approve the ceasefire deal until Hamas backs down. Palestinians celebrated the ceasefire announcement on the West Bank yesterday. The deal is expected to go into place Sunday. It would end 15 months of fighting. But now Israel's security cabinet claims Hamas is reneging on parts of the agreement. Hamas leaders responded by saying they are committed to that agreement.
Durham County Commissioner Nada Alam, whose calls for a ceasefire directly reached Vice President Harris last year, is speaking out about the ceasefire deal. She says when she introduced her young children to Harris, she implored her to also think of the many children in Gaza who'd been orphaned in this conflict. Alam says she's cautiously optimistic this deal will hold, which includes a surge of humanitarian aid into Gaza. But Alam says one of the biggest challenges will be rebuilding healthcare systems there.
Now there's going to be a ceasefire, but there's so many injured people. There's so many people with life-changing injuries that there's no hospitals to support them and care for them. We as an international community need to figure out how we're going to support medical refugees that need help.
A report in the New York Times says the death toll of roughly 40,000 Palestinians could be a severe undercount. WRAL News has covered the Israel-Hamas war since fighting began in October 2023. To watch those stories, tap the link of today's coverage at the top of WRAL.com.
In his parting words, President Biden offered a mix of hope for the future and warnings about potential threats. He pointed to the strengths of his presidency, and including the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas, pandemic recovery, and job gains. Now, as he prepares to hand over power, the president issued a warning.
An oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy.
The president wishing the incoming Trump administration success while offering thanks and hopes for the future to the American people. President Biden will attend Monday's inauguration of President-elect Trump, along with the three other living former presidents, Obama, Clinton, and Bush.
Today, the family of a 15-year-old who was shot and killed over the weekend will honor him today. The family of Ariane Clendenning will hold a balloon release this afternoon at the Magnolia Point Apartments in Durham. AJ, as he was known to friends and family, was shot and killed in Durham over the weekend. He was playing outside in the snow at the time. Police have not arrested anyone for the shooting, but AJ's family says they do not believe he was the target.
Today, Buncombe County leaders are trying to address budget shortages they're facing after Hurricane Helene. The county, which includes Asheville, is anticipating a revenue shortfall of as much as $20 million. In response, it's putting a hiring freeze on county jobs. It's also adjusting schedules for public libraries. County leaders say they're exploring other funding options as well, but the emphasis is on one-time grants that are not a sustainable solution.
Firefighters in Los Angeles say they're making progress on containing the wildfires, but they say people should stay vigilant. The Palisades fire, the largest of three major fires burning in Los Angeles County, is still only 21% contained, according to CAL FIRE. The Eaton fire, the most destructive fire in Southern California history, is only 45% contained. At least 25 people have died. Thousands of structures have been incinerated. Investigators are still trying to figure out how these fires started. The ATF Los Angeles Field Division says they are looking at more than 150 leads.
And Renee, students whose schools burned down during those wildfires are returning to class now. 2 elementary schools in Pacific Palisades resumed using temporary spaces this week. The schools have more than 700 students. The superintendent of Los Angeles Unified School District says at least a third of all students in the county have been affected by the fires in some way. All but 9 of the county's schools have reopened.
Diss track lawsuit, the claims rapper Drake is making against his own label and how they promoted Kendrick Lamar's song about him.
Reflecting on a miracle, the impact of the emergency plane landing on the Hudson River.
And they said brace for impact. It all happened so fast.
And we hear from survivors of that miracle on the Hudson who got to visit the actual plane 16 years later.
And here's a live look at Apex. It is another very cold morning. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner will tell us how long we'll feel this Arctic blast.
From the WRAL Severe Weather Center, North Carolina's most experienced team of meteorologists.
4:43, and it is cold out there right now. We take a live look at Durham, Raleigh, and Fayetteville. 21 across the board. Ooh, it's cold. It's a lot colder than it was this time yesterday. Well, take a look at what you're seeing out the door. Of course, you want to bundle up. Our skies are clear this morning. We're going to have a really pretty sunrise. The one thing that we don't have is wind chill to deal with. So what you see is what you get. But what we're getting is really cold. Looking at temperatures in the teens in the north and low 20s down south. Walking the dog this morning, again, extra cold. By lunchtime, we'll climb up to 42. We'll actually have a pretty quick warm up once we get into the daylight hours. We're going to climb to 50 this afternoon, which is warmer than yesterday. And that warming trend comes as we start to see some showers for the weekend. I'll show you when they arrive coming up.
A Raleigh family is asking for help finding their son. They say he's been missing for 5 days now. Family members say Rakeem Elliott has not been seen since Sunday night. His father told WRAL Elliott jumped out of his brother's car along Hammond Road when the two got into an argument. Elliott's family and friends have been searching the area but have not found any sign of him.
He didn't have on a coat, so he might have just jumped in a vehicle with anyone. I'm hoping that's not the circumstances. But he's not out here, so he's got to be somewhere. So if anybody's seen it, please call us.
Raleigh police are investigating Elliott's disappearance.
We're hearing from the family of a Durham Uber driver who police say was killed by his passenger. 57-year-old Emmanuel Beatty was found shot and killed in the backseat of his car in Benson on Sunday. His passenger, 18-year-old Travion Brown, is now charged with his murder. Beatty's son says his father and mother were about to celebrate their 30th anniversary.
This has just been a terror, now that we have to pivot in planning for something that was celebratory to now something that is devastating.
In a statement to WRAL, an Uber spokesperson says, "Our hearts are heavy for Mr. Beatty's family and loved ones as they grapple with this unthinkable loss. We banned the rider's account and are supporting law enforcement with their investigation as they work to bring those responsible to justice."
Governor Josh Stein plans to announce new action today to protect reproductive freedoms in North Carolina. He'll speak at a conference in Charlotte at 2 o'clock this afternoon. We'll have details about his announcement in our evening newscasts.
Drake is suing his own record label for defamation over its role in promoting Kendrick Lamar's diss track, Not Like Us. The Canadian rapper filed the lawsuit against Universal Music Group. Both Lamar and Drake are signed to the same label, but under different divisions. The lawsuit says the label used financial incentives, bots, and other strategies to boost the song's revenue ahead of a contract negotiation with Drake. The suit says executives are trying to devalue Drake's music in order to get him to sign a less favorable contract.
Chicago's Lincoln Park Zoo is mourning the loss of 2 animals that died from bird flu. The zoo says a 7-year-old harbor seal named Slater died January 9th. That follows the death of a Chilean flamingo named Teal the day before that. The zoo believes the animals contracted bird flu after coming in contact with an infected waterfowl.
People who are on the plane that made an emergency landing on the Hudson River are remembering that miraculous day 16 years later. The U.S. Airways plane is now on display at the Sullenberger Aviation Museum in Charlotte. It is named after Sully Sullenberger, the pilot who made the landing, known as the Miracle on the Hudson, after the plane lost power when it hit a flock of geese. All 155 people who were on the plane survived that day, and some were at the museum yesterday to share their memories.
I'd taken an earlier flight because of the snow. I wasn't booked on this flight. Within seconds, it felt like the whole plane shook violently. And they said, brace for impact. It all happened so fast.
The plane was flying from LaGuardia Airport to Charlotte. In 2011, it finished the journey as crews drove it 700 miles to Charlotte.
Still a miracle, right? New this morning, Blue Origin is celebrating a successful launch of a rocket that will help better compete with SpaceX.
Liftoff.
The rocket is called New Glenn. It took off from Cape Canaveral just after 2 o'clock this morning. Carried test technology that could deliver satellites deeper into space on future missions. NASA intends to use New Glenn rockets to launch orbiters to Mars. There was one mishap on the mission. The booster did not land on the platform in the ocean as was intended. We're facing what could be the coldest day of the year, and we'll get you prepared to face this Arctic blast as Elizabeth Gardner is over in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. Folks better be ready for this one.
It's going to be really cold out there this morning. Temperatures are going to be down into the low 20s. Fortunately, we don't have any wind chill, so it won't be any colder than that. We take a look at North Hills this morning. Skies are clear. It's going to be a pretty sunrise. 21 degrees officially in the Triangle. We're looking at temperatures in the mid-teens, though, up near the Virginia line. Our dew point is 12, so it's dry. Obviously, it's cold enough for frost out there. And I did see some on the grass when I walked in, but I didn't see a lot of frost on the cars. It's just so dry out there that we may not have a lot of frost on windshields, but you may run into it in some places. Our skies are clear, so we have the top of the tower lit in blue, and we take a look at those temperatures in detail. 18 in South Hill, 14 in Roxborough, 19 Rocky Mount, 17 in Goldsboro, 17 Southern Pines, 21 Durham and Raleigh, and 21 in Fayetteville. So, yeah, it's cold out there this morning. 32 is our normal low. Tomorrow morning will be slightly warmer. We're looking at upper 20s instead of low 20s. And then we get into the weekend, and those morning temperatures will be above freezing. And that is key because we're looking at rain rolling in. The time period that we're looking for, notice how we drop down to 21 on Monday morning. Any rain that's left over late Sunday as the temperatures drop could change over to something freezing. And another day or so, we'll have a better look at some of our high resolution models about what that could look like. It's not going to be terribly cold this afternoon, actually. 50 in Raleigh, 49 in Durham, 52 in Fayetteville. What happens today is our wind starts to shift to southerly, and that will begin the warm up that brings us rain instead of freezing conditions over the weekend. So Saturday's 54, Sunday's 46. So it'll be a chilly rain on Sunday, but the bulk of the rain that we see is likely to be during the day on Saturday. And we're going to walk through that in a little more detail coming up. And we do have a low pressure system down here in the Gulf, some rain along the Gulf Coast. Eventually that starts to move on up into our area for Saturday and Sunday. But behind it, we're into another blast of Arctic air, and this is likely to be the coldest air that we've seen so far this season. We're talking about highs in the 20s. Did you hear that? Highs in the 20s. Ouch, right? So temperatures could end up being more than 20 degrees below average. We're going to start that on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, just bitterly cold. Here's a look at that. So we're 46 on Sunday, 32 on Monday for MLK Junior Day, and then highs on Tuesday and Wednesday are only in the upper 20s. I can't remember when we've seen afternoon highs that cold, but over the weekend, coming up in just a few minutes, we'll walk through the timeline for the rain.
We're hoping it's a typo. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. 28. The show goes on how two major award shows in Hollywood plan to honor victims of the LA wildfires and the people risking their lives fighting them.
Also, a magical anniversary. The advice on marriage from a couple who just celebrated 82 years together.
It's 4:54 here in the WRAL Live Center. We're learning about a lawsuit against a California electric company because of the wildfires that are happening out there. A woman died essentially, and her brother and his family are suing. They actually have high-profile attorney Ben Crump representing them. Southern California Edison is accused of not cutting power despite high wind warnings, and the concern is the fire may have started with a transmission tower. SoCal Edison's CEO says the winds were not powerful enough in the moments before the fire to warrant a power cut. But of course, we'll watch closely to see where this lawsuit leads and what consequences that power company could face.
Chris, thanks. Two major award shows are going forward amid the wildfires. The Recording Academy, which made a $1 million fire relief donation, says the Grammys will take place as scheduled. It is happening Sunday, February 2nd. Organizers say the show will spotlight first responders and include a charitable component. A month later, the Oscars are set for March 2nd. Motion Picture Academy leaders say they look forward to honoring frontline workers, recognizing those affected by the fires, and encouraging viewers to support relief efforts.
A Chapel Hill High School student will compete in the Cyclocross World Championship this year. Ada Watson was named by USA Cycling to the junior women's cycling team. Cyclocross is described as a steeplechase type race on a bike, though. Watson will compete in France later this month.
Here's a sweet story to start your day. A couple in California celebrated their 82nd wedding anniversary the Disney way. The lovely couple dressed up as Cinderella and her Prince Charming for this special occasion. Elton and Betty Denner have been married since 1942. After living together for 8 decades and raising their family, it was their kids and grandchildren that organized the Disney-themed surprise for the pair to celebrate. And Elton and Betty say the key for a loving relationship is patience. Look at them dance.
Dancing, right? North Carolina Aquarium at Fort Fisher is saying goodbye to one of its otter families. Leia and Quincy and their 4 pups are moving to the North Carolina Zoo in Asheboro. The 2 were the aquarium's first Asian small-clawed otters. In their place, the aquarium will welcome 2 new otters, Millie, a 6-year-old female, and Binks, a 4-year-old male. Next week, a farewell event will be held for Leia and Quincy on Facebook.
A pilot facing charges, how police were notified that he was drinking before the flight.
President Biden bids farewell, his message to Americans as he prepares to end his long career in politics.